The woman went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to reissue her damaged marriage certificate so she could adopt a little girl from the orphanage. To her shock, the staff told her the certificate was fake. The system showed she was still unmarried. The woman was stunned. She was certain she and her husband had been married for 5 years. How could the certificate be fake? She quickly asked the staff if there had been a mistake. But after another check, the staff found that her husband was indeed listed as married, just not to her. The legal wife's name and photo belonged to another woman. Suddenly, she remembered a photo she had once seen, her husband smiling happily next to a strange woman. She'd asked if it was his ex-girlfriend, but her husband had panicked and thrown the photo into the trash. Now, she finally understood. That woman in the photo was his legal wife, the marriage she had been so proud of. It was fake all along. She went home in a daze, only to hear her husband talking to his assistant outside the door. He said the woman loved him, like her life depended on it, and even without legal status, she would never leave him, because she had cut off every path of return. The woman collapsed to the ground, stunned. Yes, 5 years ago, she had refused an arranged marriage from her parents. At the wedding, she had turned down the groom and even severed ties with her family just to chase the love she believed in. She had wanted to prove her choice was right by building a happy marriage, but from the very start, her husband had deceived her. What she had was not a real, legally protected marriage. It was all part of his calculated plan. Devastated, the woman quietly called the man from the arranged marriage her parents had once chosen. She asked if he would still be willing to marry her. On the other end, the man's voice trembled with excitement. He eagerly agreed, promising they would go to the Civil Affairs Bureau in 4 days to register their marriage, saying whoever didn't show up would be a little puppy. The woman smiled gratefully. It turned out this man, whom she once rejected, was the one who truly loved her. She stood up, but after just a few steps, her grief overwhelmed her, and she collapsed. Her husband rushed out and carried her to the couch, carefully tending to her wounds. The woman still didn't want to believe that a man so kind could betray her. She held on to one last bit of hope, so she asked him, as a test, if they could go reissue the marriage certificate tomorrow. She watched his face closely, but he replied impatiently that such things should be handled by a lawyer. Then, flustered, he quickly found an excuse to leave the house. With that, her final hope was shattered. As she sat there mourning the love she had given to the wrong man, the observatory called. They informed her that the star her husband had bought and named after her was about to fall from the sky. What a coincidence. Their marriage had begun with a star, and now it would end with one falling. The next day, the woman received a call from the orphanage. The little girl she and her husband had been planning to adopt had caught someone else's interest. They urged her to come quickly to sort it out. But as soon as she arrived outside the orphanage, she saw her husband across the street, talking with a manipulative woman she recognized as his legal wife. The woman overheard them say, "The girl is about to be adopted by someone else. We need to act fast. She's our daughter." The woman froze. Their daughter? She suddenly realized the girl her husband had wanted her to adopt all along was actually his biological daughter. They, the husband, the manipulative woman, and the little girl, were the real family. She was the outsider, heartbroken and resolute. She thought, 5 years ago, I had the courage to chase love. Now, I have the strength to walk away from it. She walked into the orphanage and asked to see the girl's file. But when she saw the birth date, she nearly gasped aloud. It was the exact day her husband had proposed to her. She remembered he'd placed a ring on her finger, then rushed off, saying it was a work emergency. Now she understood. He wasn't working. He had gone to meet his newborn daughter. He had been lying from the very beginning. Her sadness turned to fury. She told the orphanage staff clearly she no longer wished to adopt the girl. They were free to place her with another family. At that moment, her husband stormed in, dragging the manipulative woman with him. He protested, saying the girl was his daughter and couldn't just be given to someone else. The woman stared him down and asked, "Your daughter? With who? With her? Tell me, who is really your wife?" Cornered, the husband changed his story. He claimed he wanted to raise the girl as his daughter. He even insisted the woman had to go through with the adoption. She laughed coldly. "Then tell me, do you still want the child we never had? Because if you're so determined to adopt her, you might as well go find yourself a new wife." She turned and walked out. 3 days, she thought to herself. That's all I need to give you your freedom, to give you your perfect little family. As she descended the stairs, the manipulative woman suddenly stepped in front of her and pretended to be pushed. She tumbled dramatically down the steps, crying out in pain. Just then, the husband appeared and saw the whole staged fall. He didn't hesitate. He yelled at the woman in rage, then rushed to scoop up the injured mistress. He carried her off to the hospital, leaving the real wife shattered. Back at home, the woman drank alone in silence. Then, in a fit of pain, she hurled a wine bottle at their wedding photo, shattering it. One by one, she stuffed everything that reminded her of him into a suitcase and took it outside to burn. The flames grew higher as memories flashed through her mind. The anniversary necklace, the sweet lies, the promises. She ripped the necklace from her neck and tossed it into the fire without a second thought. As the final remnants of their fake marriage turned to ash, she dragged her suitcase toward the street, ready to leave. At that moment, her husband returned. He asked where she was going. She told him she was just burning some old junk. Still pretending everything was fine, he said, "We're husband and wife. We trust each other. I have nothing to hide." Before she could reply, the manipulative woman stepped out of his car. Feigning dizziness, she collapsed into his arms, fresh from the hospital. The husband turned to his wife and said coldly, "She got hurt because of you. Now it's your job to take care of her." The woman stared in disbelief, and as her so-called husband tended to the other woman, she saw the mistress flash her a victorious, smug smile.